do it. Hello, welcome to Guides to the Unknown. I'm Kristen.
And I'm her little brother, William.
And from unknown to unsolved, the mysteries of life, we're discussing some of the paranormal episodes of the new Unsolved Mysteries.
Mm-hmm. That was a great opening. It was dramatic and operatic and
Cute.
Wonderful.
I'm nothing if not dramatic and operatic.
So they're calling it Volume 3 on Netflix,
Yeah.
is my understanding.
Yep, I think it's just kind of like seasons.
Yeah, basically.
But they refer to them as volumes instead.
But so there is a new crop of episodes out.
Mm-hmm.
And had you already watched these and then you suggested them, or did you know their sort of reputation?
No, I'd watched them.
You'd already watched them?
Yep.
So yeah, we're going to look at, they're pretty UFO heavy. One of them is straight up all about a UFO, and then the other one's sort of just like, UFOs are certainly part of a tapestry
of
stuff
different
that
phenomena
might be going on. But I think it's safe to say that we're going to be spoiling a couple of episodes of Unsolved Mysteries.
Yep.
One is titled Something in the Sky, and the other is called Paranormal Rangers.
Yeah, so these are the two paranormal episodes from this most recent batch of shows that got released on Netflix.
Are they the only paranormal episodes in this batch?
Yeah.
That's it?
So far. I mean, there's going to be so it's a 3-week event. We, as we're recording, are 2 weeks into the 3-week event.
Oh, okay.
And I believe.
I didn't even realize that.
And then there's going to be another batch of episodes dropped. And it seems like if it's going to follow the pattern that there's like one paranormal, a couple of true crime. And that's the way it's kind of been going.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah.
Remember when TV made like
was easy to understand?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to both like praise the idea of like shows just sort of doing what they need to do to exist and experimenting with formats and structure and everything, but like I've been getting like into refining my movie collection and stuff in the past week, and even just going online and seeing people refer to like, here are TV series and movies. And it's like, well, I don't know, like Halloween Kills was dropped on Peacock.
Yeah.
I don't know how anything is different from each other anymore.
Yeah.
It should just be series or movie.
Yeah.
And I don't know what series.
Yeah, right.
You know? I don't know what series like drops in like chunks. It's like here 3 episodes at a jump.
They're doing that a ton now.
It's binge meets serialized.
Right. Like not giving you everything all at the same time, but doing it in batches instead. So you still get to binge somewhat, but they can still have you on the hook for multiple weeks. Seems to be this new model.
I have to say, I haven't been keeping up with everything that Disney's been putting out from like the MCU, the Marvel shows, and the Star Wars shows. But over there, I know that it is one a week.
Right.
And it makes you go like, oh, I can't wait for Wednesday. There's going to be a
week.
new episode of the Cassian Andor show.
Yes.
That I can wrap my head around.
No, it definitely is confusing.
We're in week 2 of a 3-week thing, and they're going to be plopping droplets of Unsolved Mysteries.
That's what they did with The Mole too.
It's confusing.
So maybe it's a Netflix thing. I don't know. I mean, they also did that on HBO Max with Pretty Little Liars. It was like 3 episodes one week, 2 episodes the next week. It's a thing.
A good thing?
Not particularly.
It's just something they're doing.
Yeah, it's just something that's happening.
Something they do now.
I guess I would say I'm indifferent. But the thing is, I guess you don't. It's weird that you don't. It's not clear. You're right. Like
I don't know what's going
the
on.
standard thing is 1 per week.
Yeah.
This is like, how many do I have loaded on here right now? Like, what is this going to allow me to watch? That was what
we'll
always,
just like give you feed pellets whenever we want.
Kind of. That's basically what would happen
weird.
when I watched The Mole, because I think some weeks there would be 2 episodes dropped, and some weeks there were 3. So I was just waiting to see whether the next episode, Little Chiron, was going to come up or not, or I would go back to the menu to see how invested I should be. And like when I should be waiting for the cliffhanger. It's very weird.
I mean, I'm not a puppet.
So I guess the answer is I don't like it.
There are no strings on me.
Yeah. Well, look, I've got strings coming out of every which way when it comes to these streaming services. They've got me by them.
It's getting outrageous.
I know.
You just gotta wait. There's too much good stuff out there these days. It's a spoil of riches.
Yeah.
Just wait a year.
Right, and then it'll all be out.
It'll all be out, and then you can do the whole thing or whatever. I don't know.
Right, but so as
Chucky is airing one at a time every week, and I'm loving it.
Yeah.
Loving it. I get the anxiety of being like, oh man, I wish it was Wednesday because there's the new Chucky.
Right.
I can't do that if it's like, I don't know, Netflix pooped out 3 more Unsolved Mysteries, and I guess I better gobble them up now because it'll be months until the next one or something.
Right.
It's
and
weird.
You never know when it's coming.
I don't know.
No, it is very strange.
Whatever.
So as we're recording, I believe that there are some more episodes of this volume of Unsolved Mysteries to come.
Sure.
But where it stands, I had watched these 2 paranormal episodes and told Will about them, and I wanted him to, just as a person, wanted you to watch them so we could talk about them. And then we were like, well, why don't we do it on the show?
Yeah.
It's a little bit in the style of our second podcast, which is on Patreon, called The Netherworld Dispatch, because we'll talk about things that we've watched over there, but we figured why not do it over here?
Give you a little flavor of the Patreon.
Right.
Also, almost literally, because this past Monday, it's out literally right this second for people, we watched some Unsolved Mysteries.
Yeah.
We literally watch it on the show and pause it and comment and look stuff up. It's super fun.
Right. The Farina version.
Yeah.
When it was hosted by Dennis Farina after Robert Stack.
If you thought that the Netflix Unsolved Mysteries was the first time it's been brought back after Robert Stack, the guy that is the icon of the franchise. No. Mm-mm. Jammed in there, Dennis Farina hosted it.
Yep.
And so we watched episode 1 of his tenure. And it was really fun.
It was good.
Which is why, how do you feel about Netflix Unsolved Mysteries? Have you been keeping up with this the whole time?
No, I've dipped in and out. I think I watched all of the first, I guess, volume. I guess they don't call it season. I guess I watched all of the first volume, but then after that, I've only watched these paranormal episodes.
Yeah.
So the way that I feel about it is that I think it's a really good show, but it doesn't feel anything like Unsolved Mysteries whatsoever.
Not at all.
And I wish that there was a reboot of that, like a more faithful reboot of Unsolved Mysteries with a host and with segments and having a little bit of that nostalgic feel to it.
Have you listened to the podcast?
I think same deal. Like I've listened to like a couple of the paranormal episodes.
I specifically put it on today just to see, because I almost forgot that there was an Unsolved Mysteries podcast. For all I knew, it was a companion to the show where it's like, well, you'll get more of that particular episode in this episode of the podcast, but it's not. Right. It's a unique episodes, and it is hosted. And it is hosted by somebody who is doing something of a spooky voice, to be honest.
Yeah.
Steve French.
Okay.
And he's not Robert Stack, but no one is.
Right.
He's great. He does a great job being like, we're going to find out about Bigfoot this week and how he was tormenting this person. And it pulls you into that hosted, somebody who is there to sort of
like guide you through it.
But also spackle over time jumps and stuff and be like, 15 years later, they went into the woods and encountered this. And I say that specifically because it took me 2 or 3 attempts to watch the Netflix show. It is beautiful.
Yeah.
It is long.
Yeah.
And it is, in my estimation, so boring. I can't even believe it.
Oh, I don't feel that way.
Like if you are having trouble sleeping, I would say
toss it on.
Put it on. It is so like, it's 2 things at once. It's like I marvel at its construction, and also I just think like, this is not what Unsolved Mysteries ever was.
No.
To be like, each episode is a 45-minute long documentary.
Right.
It is so slow paced. It is not reveling in mystery. It is just sort of laying out facts.
Yeah.
And then...
Yeah, because, I mean, this is presumably supposed to be somewhat like the old show, where if you have further information, you can get in touch because perhaps you can help solve a mystery. There's the thing at the end. So it is just laying out the facts for you.
But Robert Stack said that too, and his show was spooky and fun. And
yes.
It was a half-hour long, and they would cover like 5 mysteries.
I know. If anything, it was ahead of its time. It was like a show for the TikTok generation, as they say, because it was like fast cut, zooming text coming in at you from the screen.
Yes.
Colors, whatever.
Here's a ghost story.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden, here's a very depressing murder story.
Right.
But here's a UFO tale.
Yes.
That's in a half hour. incredible.
It was half an hour?
I don't know. Maybe I'm making that up.
I don't think that's... Yeah, I don't
My
think that's
point is
true.
that really is that an episode would be about multiple things.
Definitely.
And then the Netflix show is like, well, no. Here's 15 seconds of footage of like a frog. And then the VO will come back in.
Yeah,
Because we're giving you the ambiance of a place. And I'm like, just get on with it. Kristen, I couldn't believe it.
I haven't felt this way.
Do you find it? And I think I'm really in the minority. Mm-hmm. But do you find it like spooky, or comfortable, or something?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, like atmospheric, spooky vibe.
It
thing.
almost,
I don't know, not scary or anything.
Atmospheric is the atmosphere of it is beautiful. Mm-hmm. It is beautifully shot.
Yeah,
it is beautifully edited. This is really just like a stylistic like. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't fit what I'm looking for from something like this.
Yeah.
I needed these to be both in one episode or something,
right.
And for them to just move on.
Yeah. I wonder if they've I mean, it could have nothing to do with it, but when I was thinking about wishing that Unsolved Mysteries was rebooted in a more faithful way, it made me think of the fact that they brought back America's Most Wanted last year.
Oh.
And like had the same sort of deal. Like it looked like it was lifted from the 90s. It was, I think, Elizabeth Vargas, like walking around a call center, hosting it,
wow,
and doing the whole thing. And it was like a complete flop and canceled like automatically.
Really?
Yeah. So I wonder if,
Maybe.
America has moved on, but Chrissy has not. I watched it. I DVR'd it and watched all of it, but it didn't come back.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. Maybe because like this also feels like how movie trailers have evolved, where the joke always used to be that guy going, in a world where blah, blah, blah. And now movie trailers speak for themselves. They have trailer lines where a character will just go like, are you saying we have to go to the past to save me? Yeah. And like the movie just tells you what it's going to be.
Or, what have you done with my friend? My favorite one
that is,
from Rampage.
That is a great trailer line. Wow, that is a throwback.
That's The Rock talking about a giant lizard. Giant gorilla.
A big ape.
Yeah.
What did you do to my friend?
It's his best friend.
It'd be great if the line was, because you're right, friend is silly. He should have said, what have you done to my ape?
I would prefer that.
But yeah, so like in this, host is silly. That's old fashioned. Mm-hmm. So now it's somebody being like, well, I moved to Nevada when I was 3. No, I think I was 4.
Yeah.
And then, like sometimes there's text on screen to explain context, but mostly you're just left with like what people are saying. Yeah. And then editors have Frankenstein together this story out of things that they've said. And it's like both a feat and just so characterless to me. But whatever. That really is that colored my entire thing, but it has nothing to do with the actual material of the show.
Yeah.
So what do you want to talk about first? You want to talk about something in the sky, or do you want to talk about Paranormal Rangers?
I think Paranormal Rangers.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I love this.
Yeah, it's awesome. I wish this was its own TV show altogether.
I think I'd be shocked if it wasn't discussed or isn't happening or something. Yeah. This is fodder for a show.
It's so cool. So it's following these 2 partners who are rangers on a Navajo investigation, and they sort of just fell into being the 2 guys who would go ahead and research anything that falls out of the normal purview of law enforcement, which ends up being a lot of like UFO stuff, ghost stuff, shapeshifters, and hearing these 2 guys sort of explain their cases to the viewer.
Which is a really interesting...
Yeah.
They are the Men in Black.
Right.
Of what is described as Navajo Nation. Which I guess is an area.
Well, they're not really cleanup guys. I wouldn't call them Men in Black just because they're not the cleanup guys or anything. They're just in there like scratching their heads along with you, being like, what can I do about this? I guess I'm just here to document it, essentially.
Yeah. For that reason, it doesn't maybe lend itself to its own show, because you're right, there's not a lot of action to be wrong, but the cases themselves are probably really interesting.
Right. Maybe the show is just them going through their case files and them acting as hosts and then throwing to reenactments of the cases that they're telling us about.
Yeah, I'm dying for a silly reenactment on this.
know.
This is not Unsolved Mysteries the way I've known it.
Yeah.
It's fine
Right.
that it's this and people seem to like it, but this is not the show that I want it to be.
No, for sure not.
And weirdly, it's all like a lot of original people. The guy who directed the Something in the Sky episode directed old episodes of Unsolved Mysteries.
Oh, that's
which
cool.
is like, I love that it is still sort of like in the purview of people who've been part of the series for a long time, I guess. But it's just wild. It just does not feel like that.
Yeah.
So I found out that Netflix has their own website. I don't think anybody knows this.
What's it? Can you remind me what the name is? I do know this. Yeah, I do know that.
Toodum.
Yeah, when we had an episode that I don't remember whether lives on the main feed or Patreon, but where I was researching Stranger Things, like it's on the main feed, RPGs.
Okay.
It's about RPGs. And I was researching Stranger Things RPGs, and I was on the Toodum website. ARGs, sorry.
Alternate reality games. All right.
So, RPGs, role player game, yeah.
So Netflix has their site, Toodum, which evidently is their own website, TUDUM.
Right.
Where they post information about their own shows.
Mm-hmm. I think there's also something like Netflix Candy. That's another thing.
I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
So this is their synopsis, and it's largely what you just said, but this is like straight from the horse's mouth, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
The Navajo Rangers patrol and protect the 27,000 square mile reservation spanning portions of Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah. In 2000, Stanley Milford Jr. and Jonathan Redbird Dover, whose job descriptions typically include land protection, search and rescue, and evacuations, received a new intriguing assignment: investigating reports of paranormal activity on the Navajo Nation.
Yeah.
Which is, I love that is like a job that you can have, or obviously it's part of their responsibilities. It's
right.
You don't get to just be the paranormal ranger in and of itself.
Yeah, I don't think there's quite the volume for that. But basically, they essentially got stuck with it. Like, these weren't guys who were super passionate about this to begin with, and so they naturally gravitated toward these cases. They were regular rangers who I think responded to a case one day or something, and then whoever's above them was like, "Oh, you guys do these from now on." And they were like, "Okay."
That's the show. All right, I just figured it out. It's not maybe a reality show.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fiction show.
Yeah.
Where cops are constantly, they've got too many responsibilities depending on who you're talking to.
Uh-huh.
Someday the chief comes and says to a couple of them, "All right, I've got a new assignment for you guys. You're in charge of the ghost division."
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're like, "I don't know what to do." And they're out of their depth. It's like Reno 911.
Isn't there
but with paranormal.
Remember there was a show a couple of years ago with Adam Scott and Craig Robertson? Is that what was happening?
I forgot that existed. Were they ghosts, or was that...
No, I don't think they were. I feel like I can see them in like FBI-esque outfits, but they investigate ghosts.
I think you're right. Craig Robinson Ghosted.
Uh-huh.
It was a sitcom. Oh, this is weird.
Right.
Former missing persons detective Leroy Wright is a skeptic who doesn't believe aliens exist, unlike true believer Max Jennifer, who is convinced his wife was abducted by such beings. Against all odds, the two find themselves forced to work with each other when, at low points in their lives, they're both recruited by Captain Ava Laffrey, a take-no-prisoners former Air Force test pilot and head of the Bureau Underground, a secret government organization investigating paranormal cases. Laffrey and her staff support Leroy and Max as they look into unexplained activity and keep Earth safe.
All right, so, pretty close.
Pretty close.
A mere hop, skip, and jump from the story of the Paranormal Rangers.
There were only 16 episodes.
Yeah.
And,
tough stuff.
Tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. But I like the idea of it being like, you have no choice but to become
You've been assigned to this.
Yes. This is what you're going to do now.
It's something that's like a passion project and like a crazy, like deep belief for a lot of people, but you just have to do it. It's just part of your job
You
now.
don't want anything to
whatever
do
you
with
think of it.
Right. And probably the deep belief people are a pain in your ass.
Yeah,
They're probably
right.
always telling you how to do your job or something.
Yeah, you're just trying to write down like factual stuff or whatever.
All I'm supposed to write down is there was a ghost here. I can't bust it.
Yeah,
I don't know
right.
what to do.
No, and they even joked about how when they got assigned that, they were like, cool, we're the X-Files.
Yeah,
We're Mulder and Scully.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then it seems kind of dry.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What do you think?
I didn't feel that way. I was into it the whole time.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
They talk about Bigfoot.
Right.
There was a case where a woman was being...
Well, I don't know if we're thinking of the same thing. Are you thinking of the woman who answered her door?
Yes.
Yeah. So this woman was just like hanging out at home or something, and I guess heard something at the door and answered the door and described basically Bigfoot, like a gigantic hairy thing. But she said it wasn't like built like Bigfoot usually is, like super muscly and stuff. She said that it seemed like it was kind of like gaunt. And yeah, it came to the door and I think eventually went away. I think she like looked at it.
Right.
And they just sort of stared at each other and she was freaked out and maybe just closed the door and that was the end of it. And she's in the episode, but she is in the sort of like classic 90s Unsolved Mysteries or other shows like shadow, so that you don't see who she is, and she wants to remain anonymous because she knows that it sounds ridiculous.
Yes, that comes up a lot in both of these episodes. The idea of like, I never wanted to tell my story, and or I'll tell it now, but with anonymity.
Yeah.
Because people will think I'm a crazy person.
Right.
Like that clearly is still a big thing that people are dealing with.
Yeah.
But weirdly in an age where, and granted, we're a guide to the unknown. So I don't know if the average person feels this way. But there's so much coming out all the time about at least UFOs. Maybe not about Bigfoot.
Right.
Where you'd be like, I don't know. It's been confirmed that there are things that we don't know what they are flying around. So
yeah, constantly.
Maybe you're not that crazy.
Who knows? I mean, and also it seems like there are enough encounters and sightings that it necessitated assigning these two guys to cover them.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot going on in the area that they cover, and albeit the area they cover is massive, like it's a humongous place to be servicing. So it's not like it's all in a tiny, little town and it's like 10 people every month or something. But like it happens enough that it could make you wonder, like, is there something to this?
Yeah,
what are they seeing?
Yeah. I also got the feeling watching this though where I'm like, all it is like, it's just so much. Maybe it's like 45 minutes of people going, and this happened and that happened and I saw this and somebody told me that, and there is no voice of rebuttal.
Yeah,
there is nobody on the show to say like, well, actually there have been sightings in this area because bog gas, my favorite go-to, of course, like whatever, like there's just not a person to. When we covered Unsolved Mysteries like a month or two ago, we did spontaneous human combustion.
Yeah, they have a skeptic.
A skeptic was there, and he said, I think
Joe
these
Nickel
mystery mongers should shut up and get a life. And he was like way too aggressive, but at least it lent voice to not just being like, yeah, Bigfoot's real, and he's in Navajo Nation.
Yeah.
Like,
no, it's true. I mean, it seems like this like reboot of Unsolved Mysteries is way more interested in, rather than giving like a full 360 view of any given situation, interested in telling a person's story and a person's experience of whatever the situation is. Because it's certainly the case in the other episode that we'll talk about, Something in the Sky, and also the couple true crime episodes that I saw. It's really just like the person who dealt with it telling their story.
Yeah.
So I guess I mean, I hadn't thought about it, but now that we're analyzing it this way, it seems to be a deliberate angle that they're taking. And I really enjoy the old way Unsolved Mysteries operates, but I guess I didn't miss the lack of it watching this new kind.
Yeah, I can see that. I don't know. I just felt like, for me, I go into a lot of these things and I'm skeptical right off the bat. So for me, 45 minutes of them just saying like wild, hard to believe, if not wholly unbelievable stories, one after another, at a certain point my mind just goes, yeah, but I don't believe in this. Right. And then from that point on to whenever the credits are going to roll, it's just a mush of like people lying to me is how it feels, I'm just like, I don't believe any of this happened. So there's just a whole lot of one take on everything exists. It's just a little weird. I need another opinion or something, because I know that I've already poo-pooed a whole lot. But there's nothing that I can do as we talk about these other things. Like,
there's nothing you can do when you have to poo-poo.
That's true. But like if you bring up any of these other things, like when coins started appearing, I just have to go like, well, I don't believe that.
I know. What must have been going on?
There's almost nothing to say.
I don't know.
When you just don't believe.
Yeah.
So the case was that I don't remember what place they went to.
It was an office building that they were investigating, like a haunt, like a poltergeist situation.
Okay. And coins, they heard the sound of a coin falling.
Yeah.
At first, I think it was one coin, right? And when they found it, they could not figure out where it had fallen from. Then they heard another coin.
Yeah.
And another. And another. And by the end of this thing, coins are falling onto one of their heads.
Right.
Like they bent over to pick up one coin, and a bunch of other coins fall on them. And one of them picks up, like, it looks like the container you use at the drive-thru at the bank. It's like a pneumatic tube, like a thunk, one of those things where the ooze from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's sort of a tube, and it's capped at both ends.
Right.
And it's filled with coins.
Yeah.
And he keeps it in this containment unit. He goes, these are all the coins from that day.
Right.
And he holds up a tube of coins. Like I'm supposed to. What do you do when you look at a tube of coins like that?
What do I do?
Well, because I just look at it and I go like, but how? I don't know. You just put coins in a tube. It doesn't, having them in a fancy tube.
Yeah.
Doesn't lend the story more credence somehow because you have a silly tube.
No.
A special containment.
No, certainly not. I don't know. I didn't even think that. I mean, maybe it's just me. I just didn't even think of it as a special containment. I guess just was like, oh, he just kept the coins. Like, I wasn't like, oh my God, the coins. Thank God he's got them in there. Well, I was just like, oh, it's this guy's coins.
Why is it even significant? Just spend them.
I don't know. Well, it's just significant to him because he's saying that they rained down upon him.
I guess.
So for him, but yeah, I don't know. I didn't even think of them as like, whoa.
Yeah, these are the things when you're not on the ride, and you even against your own wishes are sitting there with your arms folded, you just start being like, why a special tube? And
I don't know if there's a
what's
reason.
the worth of like even being like, camera people, here, come here, I'm going to show you the tube full of coins. And the camera people are going like, I gotta get a shot of this. Like, what's like insignificance?
No, that makes total sense to me. If you're gonna show the story about the coins, and it turns out the guy happens to have what he says are all the coins, why not get a shot of the coins?
I don't know. If I even had the camera there, I'd be like, somewhere in the back of my head, I'd be like, what if he just said that?
But you're making a show. If he says you want to see the coins, you go, no. You're making a show about it.
I know. That's. I guess that is also sort of my problem. In a nutshell, is where it's like, it's a foregone conclusion. Yeah. Right? That like anything he says to me, I'm gonna have to shoot it. Anything he says to me, we're gonna have to edit it into the show. Right. And it's gonna have to go out there as if it's a fact or evidence or something. It's just like, it could be, if he were to show me a piggy bank and say, these are the coins from that day. And it's not. Right. It carries the exact same importance. Yeah. Even if it's made up, as long as you didn't tell us it's made up. Right. I struggle with these things as entertainment. I know. I'm sure a ton of people do. I don't know. Is there anything else you want to talk about from this? Because I love the premise of these guys being tasked with doing paranormal stuff. And I have a lot of reactions from people. And I found some really cool stuff about these episodes online. Yeah, sure. I mean, I guess I would like to mention that they subscribed to the interdimensional Bigfoot theory, which I thought was fun. I also really like that theory. I listened to a podcast that John Redbird Dover was on to prepare for this, to see if I could find any like additional nuancy sorts of things. It was called Blurry Creatures. It was a cool podcast. And he filled in like a little bit about the office the office coin falling thing, basically. Okay, yeah. He said that they did what they did and nothing really changed at first. There was still like a lot of activity there. And then what'd they do? I don't remember. Well, they just investigated or something. I don't know why it would change. I think I'm phrasing it wrong. Well, it's not like them being there to like be cops for the coins would like stop the coins. I am sort of at a loss of what it is that they're I think they're just so I'm mushing together slightly the show and the podcast I listen to. Like, what do cops do? You know what I mean? They show up depending on what the thing is, and they take
it's not all they do, but they take notes and they document it.
A lot, yes.
So I think that these guys show up to these things, assess whether there is anything actionable here, and if there is something actionable, go along that path. If not, document it, and so the person knows that they are heard and their issue is on the record, and then they move on to whatever their next task is, the cops.
It's like...
or the Rangers.
It makes me think of the SCP Foundation, which we did on the show previously, where it's like all of this paperwork
Yes.
on paranormal things, where it's like, don't look at this doll.
Right.
Right. And then it's like, why? Oh, because it'll kill you. All right.
Right.
But here it almost plays like, oh, yeah. That house, there are coins falling out. Why? Yeah. Oh, we don't know. Okay, well, what's going on over there? Yeah, over there somebody saw a skinwalker. Well, what did it want? That's just the thing. We don't know. Like it always ends with we don't know, you know?
But they don't know. So better to say that than to make something up, even if it's less entertaining.
Right.
Because it seems like this is these dudes and their community's real life.
In Cell 42, there's a toilet that uses you. Okay, what does that mean? That's just the thing. We don't know. We're not sure.
Well, for SCP, that's funnier.
We don't know about anything.
Fiction, so you could make up anything. What's the diff?
Right.
But this is like they don't know. Right. They don't know. So anyway, so they visited this place, and then somehow he heard that, like through the grapevine, or like helped get a priest in to do an exorcism. And he said that the priest came in and did an exorcism, and that the activity lessened for a while and then picked back up. So again, there's no finish to that. That's just a little bit more of what happened that you don't see in the episode.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Do you think a person conducting an exorcism has to believe in God for it to work? Or is it the rote mechanics?
I would think so.
Could you just read the Bible and splash holy water, and the mechanics of it are there? So
I doubt it. My understanding about these mystical things is that intention is huge.
Right.
So
yeah.
I don't... I mean, you know, maybe it works somewhat, because there are also degrees to this. You know what I mean? So he said that the activity lessened after the exorcism. It didn't just completely stop or just completely keep going at the same, you know, volume.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe if you don't believe, but you go through the rote mechanics, maybe there's like a splash of helping.
Yeah.
But it would certainly be more effective if you were putting, you know, belief into it.
That's interesting. That's very fascinating.
Yeah.
It's a good rebuttal.
Do you want to tell me what you saw?
Yeah, I found out that Netflix does something pretty awesome with this show.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go to the Netflix Totem site, whatever, each episode seems to have its own Totem page.
Uh-huh.
And at the bottom, they'll link to, like, to see more of this episode, click here. And it links to a Dropbox.
Oh.
Not even to just like another website under Netflix's control, just a Dropbox with files.
Like your coworker
folders.
sends you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so each episode has additional materials.
That's cool.
Which I love.
Yeah.
So
I'm surprised to hear that. I feel like they should, I don't know, advertise that a little bit more. Like put it on the screen at the end the same way that they put, like, has something paranormal happen to you, go to XYZ.
Right, because they are taking, like, if you've had something unexplained happen, you can submit it to them.
Yeah.
For them to do like a future episode or something.
Mm-hmm.
But so, yeah, they're also giving out these documents. It's exactly like when we did Scream's, the new Scream movie, Scream All New Movies marketing, and it led to like a Dropbox with in-game materials, sort of.
Yep, those on Patreon.
For this episode, it was mostly video files, which is substantial. It's like several gigs worth of material. Some of it was almost like deleted scenes. So, you know, one of them was Jonathan Redbird Dover talking about finding orbs, following orbs, like through the woods. But a couple of them, I really sort of like leaned in and was a little interested in from like a spooky standpoint. One purports to be the sound of Bigfoot like roaring in the forest.
Oh, cool.
And you click it and the video is just black. So it's really an audio file with video attached for whatever reason.
People are probably more familiar with clicking play on a video.
True. So it's just black screen, but then you just hear like, and And it's like, I don't know, 30 seconds long.
Yeah.
Of an ambiguous roar.
Yeah.
Whatever. I loved it.
That's awesome.
And then the next video that I was really interested in was, I think it was at it was another part of their Bigfoot segment.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody thought they were seeing Bigfoot on their property.
Okay.
Whatever. This is like almost like a Ring doorbell cam type thing.
Yeah.
And it's looking onto a little courtyard. And it's maybe 8 seconds long.
Mm-hmm.
And a big thing just like basically blinks into existence in the middle of this courtyard.
Yeah.
And then after a couple of frames, it almost like fades away.
That's awesome.
And then the video plays again, but it slowed it down this time. Slows things down for a better look.
Yes.
But because there was no, in this instance, there's no context. They didn't put on the screen, here's why you're listening to this clip, or here's why you're watching this clip. You just watch it.
Yeah.
And there's another document somewhere that'll explain the context.
Mm-hmm.
But if you ignore that, it's just like finding a scary video.
Yeah,
that somebody
cool.
sent you. It was really, really neat.
It must have felt like just stumbling onto something that you weren't supposed to see.
It
like
did.
there was a back end problem that you were benefiting from.
Yes.
Yeah.
I loved it more than
right,
the
which is
show.
awesome. Right.
I loved just being like, yeah, we made a whole documentary. Also, here, just look at this.
Right.
Purported to be evidence.
Yeah, that's super cool.
And deleted extended scenes, I guess, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I loved that.
Yeah.
So much. Like, want to copy it.
Yeah, it's super
Loved
cool.
And then I went on Reddit to look at people's reactions to the episode.
Yeah, I did that too.
You did that?
Mm-hmm.
So I copied down a few that I thought were interesting or significant or funny.
Yeah.
So this was posted by I am new to Reddit, haha. The coins story really scared me because of the probability of all the coin. Oh, they say all the coins landed heads up.
Right.
Which John took to mean somebody being like, heads up.
Giving
I'm
you
here.
a heads up. Yeah.
I'm giving you a heads up.
It was Stanley this happened to.
Okay. The coin story really
That's
scared
his
me
name.
because the probability of all the coins landing heads up is really low. And the fact that it happened again in his house later, WTF.
It's funny. WTF indeed.
And so he was talking really about the probability of all the coins landing heads up. Like
Right.
That's incredibly unlikely. But then somebody responded and said, so a lower probability than, let's say, making this up? Like, it's incredibly more likely that it was fabricated than anything else. Wow_no thank you said, the most interesting part of this episode was when they tracked... Oh, this was wild. Somebody said there was a skinwalker running alongside of their car.
Yeah, it was Stanley.
Okay. And they described it as looking like a greyhound.
Yeah.
But it was all white.
Yep.
They were all white greyhounds.
I guess honestly I thought that it was like its body shape was like a greyhound where it has that like it's skinny and has that like
Lanky.
barrel-y chest that goes into like an extreme curve.
I heard it as like it looked like a greyhound, but it
But it was
couldn't have been
white.
because it was white. We know greyhounds are gray.
Yeah.
I don't know. But
I guess it's also colored by them later talking about how it looked like it was like sponge painted white.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm getting this mixed up. I think I'm getting this mixed up. There was that woman who also saw a ball of light chasing her in her car.
Yeah.
That's a separate thing.
Yeah.
I forgot. Two different car things. One was a
Yeah.
skinwalker, and that, just to wrap that up, the explanation for that sort of was like he went home, told his dad, and his dad was like, oh, I think what you experienced was a skinwalker. That means somebody was seeking to do harm to our family.
Yeah.
Somebody controls a skinwalker and sends it after you,
Right.
which is an interesting, scary notion.
Yeah, that was something that John Redbird Dover talked about a lot on this Blurry Creatures podcast, was basically his understanding of what skinwalkers are. And he was saying that they are human and that a choice was made to turn into that. And to make that happen to yourself, you have to go through extreme rituals and chants that are very specific. And it's like a whole process.
That's interesting.
And so he said that when they're skinwalkers, 100% of the time, it's a normal, like, human who has done something to make themselves go into that form.
Wow.
And that other people can be, like, I guess if it was something like if a skinwalker attacks and sort of like catches somebody who's already human, they are given the choice whether to become a skinwalker themselves, or they can die, or one of their family members has to die.
Whoa.
And yeah, that there's just sort of at least his understanding of it was laying out this sort of rule set for it that I had never heard before.
Yeah, I've
it
never
was very
heard that.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, that bartering process. Don't take me, take a family member.
Yeah. Yeah. And his understanding of it was that it's usually all very nefarious.
It'd be awesome if it was like, the thing came for you, right? And you go, no, don't take me, take Will.
Yeah, right.
And then it comes to me and I go,
scot-free.
And I go, oh, I know what to do. Take Kristen. I send it right back, right? You can't,
well, maybe we can keep this scheme going forever.
Forever?
Then. Yeah.
So it has
just
to keep,
avoid.
It's always somewhere in between our two houses.
Right. We never have to turn.
Never.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm down with that. So, all right. This other thing was somebody saw a ball of light.
Yeah.
Following their car, then speeding up, then slowing to a stop, and whatever. They try to track the path of this ball of light around her car at some point. And they decide the path of it would be going through her head, or somehow triangulating. It's focused on her head.
They do almost an EMF meter, or actually an EMF meter, I can't remember, but they find spots on her car that have more concentrated, if it's an EMF, let's say it is, more concentrated electromagnetic activity. And one of them is at like the front right of her car, and then the other is right behind where the driver's side door is. So then they suppose that there's like a diagonal that was going through the car in some way and hitting both of those spots. And that's why there's like that active stuff there.
Okay.
And that would be going through her head. Yes.
Interesting. So she also describes waking up the next day with an intense headache or something like shortly thereafter.
Yeah.
So this is what Pukaduke thought. That story seemed like the most easily explainable to me. She said she woke up with a terrible migraine. So it seems like maybe the night before she could have been having an ocular migraine / an aura.
Right.
Which is a precursor to a migraine. I've gotten those many times where your vision blurs or fuzzes out, or literally it looks like static.
Yeah.
Like colorful static.
Yeah.
I don't know, just something to pay attention to.
For sure.
Because lastly, as also pointed out by Dog Jim is Kind, he quotes her by saying, evidently she says these things almost back to back. It was the worst migraine I'd ever had.
I read this too.
And then she quickly says, I've never had a migraine before in my life.
Yeah.
So if you've never had, so one, it's contradiction in telling a story. So I don't know. But if you've never had a migraine and then you experience a visual aura thing.
Yeah.
And you're driving, and you're predisposed to believing in the paranormal. You might be like, I'm seeing a ball of light instead of being like, my vision is
we don't know her
blurred.
deal. Maybe she's not predisposed.
Of course.
Yeah.
You're right. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
If we're going with like things that I don't know about probability.
Certainly.
It feels more likely when you're talking about a migraine and you saw a ball of light.
Yeah.
And you've never had a migraine before, so you might not have had experience with something like that in the past.
Totally.
It makes a lot more sense to me that way.
Yeah, totally.
That's all.
Do those, and this is a general question, it's not like even disputing that. Do auras and stuff happen that long before a migraine like actually hits? Because it sounded like the next day she got a horrible migraine.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. For me, I remember it's been a while. I had a migraine the other day, but it was like almost like a weird low grade migraine or something.
I've had one since last night.
Ugh.
I took like a million things today. My liver's probably pissed.
Yeah. But when I used to get them pretty constantly, it would usually be, I'd be like at my desk at my old job and I'd see my vision start to blur and I'd basically be like, all right, it's going to take me 45 minutes to get home.
Right.
I've got maybe just enough time to get there before my head's going to explode.
Right. No, I don't get visual stuff with them, but the things I do get, it's like an hour before or something. And it sounds like this was like 12 hours at a minimum. So I don't know, because it was like her driving home one night and then the next day she had a bad migraine.
Without Googling it,
so
I'm going to say that you can have a visual phenomenon and then even like days later you get the migraine. I don't know.
I'm sure that's true.
I'm sure it's true.
Yeah.
Whatever.
All right, so that is that episode.
Yes.
That's the Paranormal Rangers episode.
Which is a great, like, I love that this is something that these guys are doing out there. It's like amazing that this is somebody's situation.
I know. Well, they were laid off. They're not doing it any longer.
Oh,
I learned that on the podcast.
Oh.
I know. They like were laid off into retirement, basically.
Oh, all right. Well, hopefully that's been nice for them on some level.
It sounds like at least John was enjoying it.
Good.
So that's
good for you, John.
So before we move on to, semi-briefly talking about the other episodes, Something in the Sky, we just want to touch down on our Patreon. We mentioned it before. You can go to patreon.com/gttupod, where you can choose from a number of different tiers for whatever suits you, and then you can get up to an extra episode every single week of Will and I talking, because we have a weekly podcast called the Netherworld Dispatch that comes out on Mondays.
Yep. So this past Monday, like I said, Unsolved Mysteries. You can actually hear the show on the show, and we watch it with you.
Yeah.
And it's a really wild story where we research some stuff outside of what Dennis Farina had to present to us. It was pretty fun.
It's super neat. And we also have a Discord that you get to join when you come over to Patreon that has a ton of awesome listeners of the show in it, talking about stuff every single day. On top of the regular weekly bonus episodes, we have video game playthroughs and commentaries and all sorts of bonuses over there. So go check out patreon.com/gttupod. It helps support the show. It helps keep us going, and it is so appreciated. And we hope you feel that when you dig into those thank you bonuses.
I've seen some nice things from people in the past couple of weeks. Somebody was sharing with somebody else on Discord or on Facebook or something, just being like, the Patreon is so worth it.
Oh, I know.
And I was
saw
so
that too.
like, we put a lot of work into the Patreon
Yeah.
and try to make sure that there's consistency and interesting stuff. So I really hope that you guys enjoy it. Check it out. Patreon.com/gttupod.
Yeah.
I also wrote a new story the other day. I call it Content. I literally posted online. Somebody give me on Whose Line, just being like, give me a profession. Somebody give me a profession. They do a little scene. I took feedback and somebody said mukbang YouTuber.
Uh-huh.
You know what that is?
I do. It's just where somebody sits down and eats a ton of food, right?
Yeah. Some people do it in, I guess, in a moderated sort of healthy way.
Okay.
But I know ones that are really awful. I've seen ones that are people just gorging on food.
I've never sat and really watched one. I've seen that one where that one guy, doesn't the guy something happens.
It was bad.
There's an event. There's a gastrointestinal event.
Oh, really?
During somebody doing a mukbang, and that I've seen.
I don't like the name mukbang. I know it's Korean. It literally means food show.
Right.
Eat show, I think. Anyway, a story immediately popped into my head. I randomly selected a prompt, and I regretted the story I thought of, and then I wrote it, and I literally felt kind of queasy. So go check it out. TheMythDropper.com.
I was afraid to read it, honestly.
It grosses me out.
Yeah.
It's more the implication of things, because I wrote it, and I couldn't stomach it.
Yeah.
So it's more the implication.
Sure.
But it's out there. It's called Content.
It's difficult.
Yeah. Good God.
It's challenging material, and it's actually important to challenge yourself.
It's something to chew on. It's disgusting.
All right, so let's chew on this other episode.
Yes.
Something in the Sky.
Something in the Sky.
Now, thoughts, William. I think my broad thoughts are kind of the same as before. Generally, I like this. This is fun for me to watch. What do you think?
I think it's pretty. Same. I think it's interesting enough. I think something.
Did it tickle you more or less?
I was so into the premise of Paranormal Rangers and the idea that these guys were tasked with.
You like the promise of the premise.
I love the promise of the premise. I love that.
Yeah.
And then Something in the Sky is somewhat of a conventional UFO story. And I think it's actually something that we've maybe seen before, touched on in passing or something. Here,
I think a lot of them just sound very similar.
That could be the case too.
So because I don't think that we've touched on this. They don't refer to it as this in the episode, but this area is also referred to as the Michigan Triangle.
Okay.
Love a triangle, and we've not covered this one.
Maybe we will someday.
Maybe we will, but my point is, I understand why you would think that, because a lot of UFO stories sort of mush together. They're going to have the same general beats.
You just reminded me. The first time that I tried to watch the shows for this episode, I was with Allie, and I was like, hey, I have to watch Unsolved Mysteries for the show this week.
Yeah.
She was like, sure, put it on. And within, I'm going to say, 3 minutes, she was like, I've seen this one before.
Uh-huh.
And I went, no, you haven't. This is brand new. And she goes, no, I've seen this one before. And I knew exactly what the problem was. It's what you just described.
Yeah.
They all feel the same. They all run together.
Yeah.
It is
I can
very
see that.
hard to distinguish one Unsolved Mysteries documentary format-esque show about aliens from another.
Certainly.
Certainly the Unsolved Mysteries one, as I've described, it is beautifully shot. It is masterfully constructed.
Yeah.
It is also samey in the extreme. Mm-hmm. And I had doubts as well. We debated a little bit, and I was like, no, this is new. And then I did have to back out of the menu to confirm, because I wasn't sure. That's how you can call that maybe the worst possible review. Even worse than being like, I don't like it, is being like, I
think I've seen this before.
No impact separate from anything else I've ever witnessed.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the people who are experiencing these things are what jump out to me the most, because otherwise it's just constantly like seeing lights in the sky over and over in different states, whatever.
And again, another reason why I would love for this to be one of several things in a single episode, because there are 80 different ways of describing, we saw lights in the sky this one night.
I guess that's true, but I want to hear the ways.
Okay.
You know? Like, I liked hearing from these ladies who saw it. I like being in their little cluttered kitchens.
Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah, I enjoy hearing it from different perspectives, but I also see how it's like, I'm hearing the same story from different perspectives.
So get this.
But, yeah.
I saw it too. And I also don't know.
right. Yeah, totally.
So here's the Netflix description from Tudum. Again, does anybody know about this website's existence? The official Netflix
must be
description.
Tudum, right? Could it be anything?
Tudum. Tudum? I don't know.
Tudum.
Tudum.
Oh, I think it's Netflix. Tudum.
I know what we should do. We should make a new site called Tudum, where we describe our shows. I can't believe it's not just Netflix.com.
There's there's
whatever. Why does it have
reason.
to be Tudum?
I don't know. I'm going to look it up.
Separate platform.
There is a reason.
No. So here's how
I'm not saying it's a good reason, but everything has a reason. There's a reason that this has happened.
Because we can.
Is there a company that acquired Netflix called Tudum?
Tudum.
I don't know.
Or did Netflix be like, we got to buy this simple blog?
Right.
Got to own it.
What must this be?
So here's their official description of the episode. On the evening of March 8th, 1994, more than 300 calls flooded into 911 dispatch to report strange lights in the sky along the eastern shore of Lake Michigan. The hovering objects appeared to be either round or cylindrical, with different colored lights. Eventually, callers said they headed out over the lake. A radar operator from the National Weather Service watched the movements of these UFOs for hours and confirmed the reports. In the decades since the sightings, witnesses and investigators are no closer to solving the mystery than they were in 1994. What were the eerie lights that hovered over the lake? A natural phenomenon? Military aircraft? Or were they aliens from another world?
That's the question.
I want Robert Stack to read that to me at the start.
Yeah. I don't have the answer to that question, but I have an answer to the, what were we calling it? Tudum?
Tudum.
Okay. What is Netflix Tudum?
Yeah.
If you've ever watched a Netflix show, you'll instantly recognize the sound that rings at the very start of an episode before the opening titles begin.
Tudum.
It turns out that Tudum is meant to represent the famous two notes ahead of a film or series. And if that's blown your mind, you're definitely not alone. I think that would have to blow your mind if you know about Netflix Tudum. And I don't think many people do.
No,
but still,
that's as if 20th Century Fox, which admittedly doesn't exist anymore, like their website was ba ba da da ba 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 ba.
Yeah, well, much longer, but yes.
What the hell?
Tudum. I think I would call it Dudum.
Dun-dun. Yeah.
Well, that's what that means.
That's insane.
Yeah.
They overthought the concept, I think. Anyway,
perhaps.
So all right, so the idea is there were lights, over 300 calls. The bonus features for this episode, there was no media, there were a lot of documents, a lot of 911 transcripts of phone calls, which is really, really cool. I really liked the snippets that they played on the shows, people being like, this isn't an emergency,
You're gonna think I'm crazy, but I'm seeing these lights, or somebody being like, I know you've probably gotten other calls about this tonight, but I just want you to know I see them in this location or whatever. It just felt, because it was very real, the calls.
Yeah. And so I genuinely, there's nothing that they can do over the course of 45 minutes to leave me with any feeling that I don't already have 5 minutes in of like, what is this?
Yeah.
And the show has already told you, we don't know. So
Right. I don't know. I mean, do you feel no wonder at the weather guy tracking it? Like, what the hell's this?
I did, and then somebody on Reddit poked a big hole in it that I can't see through anymore. So this guy, Jack Bouchon, I think, he was from the National Weather Service, and he was watching this all happen on radar. These lights, whatever they were, so people would say that like the lights are here, and then they split.
Yeah.
The one light became 4 separate lights, for example. And Jack Bouchon's big thing is going to be, he watched the radar sweep around. Like, you think about like radar in like an old movie.
Yeah.
That line has to go around the big circle before the radar refreshes again.
Right.
So when it refreshed, one of the lights was gone. And then it refreshed again, and it reappeared way over here.
Yeah.
So it moved. He's like, he will say they had to have been moving, he calculated it, 72,000 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I immediately thought to myself, well, that radar thing takes a big while to refresh.
Yeah.
It's like not real time. You're not seeing a thing zip.
Yeah.
So a light blinked out here and a different light blinked on over there, and you thought it was the same thing.
Right.
So therefore, you're saying for it to get from here to there, it had to be traveling at 72,000 miles an hour.
Right.
What if they're two different things?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying
totally.
That doesn't explain what the thing is.
Yeah, honestly.
But it erases the idea of 72,000 miles an hour.
For some reason, that part didn't really, not even just land for me. I don't think about that part, because I guess I think I honestly thought the same thing, where I'm like, well, it just could be a different thing. I don't know.
It might just be a different thing.
But just their existence on there,
yes,
is very strange to me.
But that's why alien stuff always feels like a death by 1,000 paper cuts, where it's like people might conflate misinformation or misinterpreting information, and then it all becomes this big thing. They can move in impossible ways that we've never seen something move, and they're faster than you've ever seen before, and we don't know what they look like, and this, and it's like, well, no. Like, you can parse out and be like, throw the first 4 things away, and you've got a weird light.
Right.
And it didn't do anything physically impossible, but we don't know what that's more interesting to me.
I about to say, I'm interested in that. I don't even think about the moving thing, because it just doesn't make sense.
The layers of hype and misunderstanding.
William, isn't that just life?
Kristen, it's a metaphor.
Right. But no, it's true, though, honestly. Like, that is the way that a lot of things work, is that there's sometimes connections that people make that you're just like, well, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Even for factual things that are measurable or whatever, that are just like, what? I don't get what you're saying there, but I understand what this means.
Yeah.
I kind of feel that way about the radar.
That is definitely true. So somebody also pointed out that, I guess, and I didn't pick up on this, he says in the episode that, like, for something to show up on the radar, it has to like the radar, whatever mechanism itself, has to be oriented in a particular way at a particular level or an angle or whatever to pick things up.
Yeah.
So these things could have either gone above or below that space and just disappeared.
Yeah.
You know, rather than disappear, they're just outside the range of what that thing can see.
Yeah, totally.
They also pointed out that this guy works for the National Weather Service, and so he's tracking weather events. His job has never been to understand how to track vehicles.
Yeah.
And so he might just be misunderstanding or misinterpreting the data he's getting, because he's usually looking for, I don't know, I'm making this up, waves and wind.
Yeah, right.
So he's a guy with a close to the right tool set for this job.
Yeah.
Maybe misapplying.
Yeah.
His, granted, incredible knowledge that I do not have.
Yeah, totally.
But still, maybe just it's not quite right.
Yeah, for sure. Although at this point, though, I would assume, because he's kind of gotten involved in, like, the UFO community, that somebody who does have those sorts of tools has, I don't know how this stuff works. I don't know. Can you show somebody else your radar? But has, like, looked over the data that he was looking at or something. I don't know. I have no idea if that's true. I'm not hanging my hat on it.
There's always going to be the problem that we have. I don't know either.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But
but you're right.
Yeah.
I would assume I would
that
assume
this has been validated
by
in
someone
right.
who knows more than us.
Right.
You want to assume that, but it still is an assumption.
Because then why would he still be so in it if like somebody had looked at this and been like, oh, you just don't understand waves. Or, I mean, you only understand waves or whatever.
The money.
What's this guy making off this? This has been a 20-year long endeavor or something.
I don't know.
And it's like, you know, I don't know.
I don't know.
So I don't know if there's like a huge money trail to follow for John Bouchon. I also tried to find him on podcasts. He's not really making the scene.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Then maybe not. There is also though, like there are other currencies than literally money. There's like attention and there's feeling of validity.
Yeah, certainly.
And I certainly think that those things, money, attention, feeling of being special or more valid or something, I believe without evidence that those are three major factors in every haunting UFO case, whatever. So I can't speak to a potential motive, but I can feel in my gut. and I can reflect that I'm on shaky ground of like, yeah, why would he be showing this data if it was nonsense? Somebody has to have poked these holes.
Yeah.
Somebody who knows more than me must have verified some of it.
Yeah.
But I don't know that.
I don't know either. I would just assume. But
just assume.
You know what that does.
We know what it did to us.
That's right.
What it constantly does to us.
Regularly.
You know what happens when we constantly assume on this show?
I assume people are going to do the same thing I would do.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. But here's some like nice comments from people. I liked this one quite a bit. From effective-leg 6749 effective leg.
That's good.
What sets this UFO sighting episode apart from the pack is the consistency of the accounts and the data from the radar, recounted in exacting detail by the scientist. The 911 call reveals how stunned he was as he tracked the objects, and this is someone who studies the skies for a living. I've always leaned toward the idea that we are not alone, but this episode made me a true believer. So like people are into this, which is great, and entertained by it as entertainment, or into it as some form of somebody saying you're not alone in thinking these things.
Maybe sparking some curiosity for somebody.
But even still, just being like the scientist was like somebody just being confident to me. I'm gonna believe that they know what they're talking about.
Wait, what are you saying though?
They're like. All of this drives toward this episode made me a true believer, and here are some of the evidence that they cite. Right, consistency of the accounts. Yeah. So this could mean all the 911 calls. Right, people did see something. Yeah. And this is what I enjoy about UFOs. Strip aside the all the dressed up stuff, everything we've been talking about, where I'm like, but this could be, but that could be, and you have 300 phone calls where people are like, what is that? Yeah. And that's interesting.
Oh, totally.
And the boots on the ground. People living with that is interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm down with that. But then there are other evidence here. They call the guy the scientist.
Okay.
Which
what guy are they talking about?
The National Weather Service guy.
Oh, okay. That's all I was asking about. I didn't know who they were referring to.
But like just being like, I don't even know who he is, but he's got an important job.
Yeah.
So therefore, I'm inclined to believe him.
Well, but in this case, I mean, the important job is what he says next. Like, his job is to study the skies. You know what I mean? Like, it seems like somebody who has some credibility in this area. Somebody sees something unknown in the sky. There's a dude whose whole job is the sky. I know. Basically.
I know.
So it's not quite so random as like, oh, an authority figure told me.
But I think that's part of it. I think we do want to trust.
But he is an expert in this somewhat arena.
He's an expert in the weather.
Yeah. Yeah, but more than any of us are.
Now, I know so little that for all I know, anybody who's evaluating weather is like, look, do you understand that I'm like evaluating every cubic centimeter of airspace?
Like how they joke about. Of
course I would pick up on a blah, blah, blah.
How they joke about how the weatherman is like the joke of the news team, but like he has to go through like insane schooling and stuff.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, I don't know.
I
don't know. And I'm trusting things that nitpicky Redditors have said because I find myself on the nitpick end and they validate my bias. Yeah, there's a whole onion of validation and assumption all the way down.
Of course. On every side of anything.
And I thought this was interesting. Teddy Likes You had this to say. What struck me is that this went on for hours. Several hundred people saw it, and yet no one had a camera lying around. The 911 calls don't lie, but damn, it just seems so weird that although it was 1994, no one had a camera to film it when they clearly had time to.
Yeah.
Wish the episode reflected that.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting point. There are rebuttals to this point where people are like, right, 1994 consumer grade.
True.
You know, a big VCR, a Panasonic Handycam thing up on your shoulder is not going to give you the fidelity required.
Perhaps, but I mean, that is true that there were like hundreds of calls. Like, nobody had one?
Why is there not
that is
some
weird.
sort of a grainy piece of footage in the bonus materials on Dropbox? There's not.
That is strange.
There would have to be.
But then, so what's the explanation for that?
I don't know.
You know what I mean? Like, they're all in on it? Like,
I know.
You know?
Kevin Smith made Clerks in 1993. So I could see Dante from... I saw him.
Wait.
I'm trying to figure out what my point is.
Okay. It's fine.
Let me think. Hold on.
Just you saying that you don't have the point is the answer. It's the answer that we needed. It's fine.
If you squint and you watch Clerks, you can see Randall.
What?
What? Wait a minute. I smell toast burning.
What are you saying?
I think I'm having an ocular migraine.
Yeah, I think so.
No, I get the point of like the camera probably wouldn't do anything, but somebody would have had.
No, but yeah, why?
Somebody would have had to have tried.
Yes, that
You'd
weird.
have to.
I would think so.
And
but again, the answer is I don't know. For all I know, I'm like, well, they tried and it all came out crappy, and that's why it's not on the show.
Exactly. The answer could just be they did.
Right.
They did film it, and it sucks.
Yeah, it looked like crap, so nobody uses it.
But I would also assume that if you're recording the footage, there's still the interest of the audio of that footage. Because people would be like, what is that? What's going on?
Yeah.
Like, I just gave myself like a chill imagining that feeling of just like people being like, do you see it?
Yeah.
Do you see it? Like the camera zooms in a little bit and it, like the sky's all blurry and the camera's moving too fast because they're zoomed in. So it's like panning really quickly and trying to land. They're like,
that would rule.
I just don't know what it is. Like whispering in the dark. You would want to put that footage
I know.
out.
That is very
300
strange.
people, nobody has that.
Yeah, that's really weird.
And then, of course, the obvious, what is it?
Yeah. I don't know.
I've poo-pooed every single person's involvement. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't either. I don't know.
So, what was that?
I don't know. That's why it's an unsolved mystery.
For the Paranormal Rangers, you can at least be like, at least their episode, even though it was all one thing, it was like, we did a Bigfoot, we did a Skinwalker, we did a ghost. Like, there's a bunch of stuff here. It's like 45 minutes of like these lights in the sky. And everybody's sort of interaction with it is like kind of interesting for human interest.
I think it's very interesting.
But what was that?
I mean, that's the whole point. That's literally the entire point of this show. There's not going to be a resolution to that. You go in knowing it.
Did you do it?
It was me.
It was Kristen. Oh, there is one other thing to talk about. There's a story in the episode where a woman says that they saw water.
Oh, I know that they saw like a gigantic column of water shooting into the sky from the ocean.
She describes it as being like the height of the sky, or like some crazy phrase.
Yep.
And so
it was very brief. It was somebody from MUFON recounting somebody else's experience.
So I have this. So again, somebody on Reddit linked to this. A Wikipedia page for water spouts. This is basically like a tornado that happens on the water.
Yep.
Now I looked at this page because I was like, well, that's kind of interesting. Like it's very scary. Like I know that you're a little freaked out by weather.
Yeah.
Like the idea that like a big tube of water can just all of a sudden be sucked up into the sky or whatever is really freaky.
I've seen that before, yeah.
But I was reading the Wikipedia because I'm like, as much as it sounds like a water spout, the Wikipedia is like, it usually happens in tropical areas. I'm like, well, Michigan.
Right.
But then they say this. Here's a Reddit person quoting that same Wikipedia. Quote, in 2012, as many as 9 simultaneous water spouts were reported on Lake Michigan.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So
I could honestly, I think that's a really cool visual and a story.
Yeah.
I didn't remember that water spouts were a thing, but I figured it was a natural thing.
It certainly seems like a natural thing.
Would
or
be very
in 2012,
jarring to see.
9 aliens did it.
Yeah, right.
At the same time.
I can imagine that being really, really jarring to see and making it big. Your mind just making it bigger for you.
And just being like, I don't even understand.
That would scare the hell out of me. So I completely understand.
Yeah, but so that one, the water spout thing.
But like,
seems easy enough to sort of like just drop it or something like that.
I enjoyed thinking about it though, as like pretending that this is an imaginary thing and what that would look like. I was like, "Wah!"
Of course.
Yeah.
But why isn't there the voice of somebody on the show to say, some guy on Reddit, like in minutes, is like water spout? You don't have one scientist on the show go like,
that's not the way this show is formatted.
There have been some phenomenon that blah 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 blah.
No, they're all about just telling the people's stories.
I know, but then you just, at least I feel I'm left with nothing but like sort of a bedtime story of a million spooky things.
Yeah.
With no promise of even thought.
I mean, I didn't really think about the rebuttal because I just rebut for myself.
Maybe I just want that one guy to just be like, these nincompoops.
Yeah, right. You just miss
get a life, you losers.
You just miss Joe Nickel.
I think I just want Joe Nickel to show up,
kick
the door in, and be like, you're all a bunch of dummies.
Right.
You mystery mongers.
I'm happy to subsist on those bedtime stories.
That's
fair. I completely hear what you're saying.
I totally get it. I 100%, for all my nitpicking, I get it entirely.
Mm-hmm.
It is comforting. I talked about like using this as a sleep aid.
Yeah.
But I'm certain that people put a show like this on in bed and do end up drifting off. Like, this is a comfort watch in the extreme.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, I just don't think it's an awake watch.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, I hope that we are putting you to bed with something to think about over here.
Tuck in.
Yeah, that's right.
Wherever you are, it might be 9 a.m. and you're driving to work, but pull over and just take a nap.
Rest those beepers. Set a spell with us over on old Oak Creek.
Oh God, are we doing?
Little home companion. What's it called?
Stuff.
Prairie home companion.
We're the little home companion.
Yeah, that's right.
Saw a big bullfrog. He was also the town's preacher. The Loveland Frogman took me out to dinner last night.
That actually, ironic, does not make me tired at all. That show just makes me like, ugh.
Turn it off. Turn it off.
I can't take it. But that's not us, luckily for you.
My daddy was a firefly.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know what you're talking about, sir.
Things like this.
Are you okay?
I don't know.
And then the jug band started to play.
And you could go see that live.
Oh, God.
To be in the audience.
What could that be? Somebody who's, like, dragged along on a date, looking around like...
Not knowing what it is. If somebody's like, oh, there's this NPR show that they do live. It's been going on for years. It's like a cult favorite thing.
Yeah?
You're like, oh, okay.
Okay, I'll go.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you go, and there's this, like...
All right, everybody, sit back in your seats. I'm going to talk to you about a June bug for the next 45 minutes.
Right.